Tonight we are at the Perryville Battlefield State Park for the Ghost Walk hosted by the park manager, Brian Bush. The Perryville battle took place October 8th of 1862. It was the largest and bloodiest Civil War battle in Kentucky with over 7,000 casualties. I will be wearing a microphone so we don't pick up too many people talking. The tour is 1 hour long. He will tell the history of the battle, and then we will walk the battlefield by lanterns and flashlight for ghost stories of things that happened there. It was $10 for each ticket, and listen close because I do capture what sounds like gunfire or cannons. And I pick up a few disembodied voices, but keep in mind it's very dark and it was such an amazing experience. We will definitely be going back next year. Everybody's gathering at the pavilion, getting ready for it. You ready, Captain?
I'm ready. Let's go do
it. All right, we're going into the battlefield.
While she was making the candle, she always knows when she's done making the candle, she turns off the wax melter. And she made sure she turned it off. And she does it all the time. She came back in the room, someone had turned on the wax and wax poured all over her floor. Somebody had turned it back on and opened up the spout. So there you go. And everybody in town said, congratulations.
Flashlight red on. Is that better? Walk across the bridge.
And when we have large groups, like school children and military staff ride, we'll show the movie.
Yep, here, babe. Definitely dark, huh? Mm-hmm. Let me borrow your flashlight, Captain. That's not bright enough for me. Dark. What was that? What was that?
Shaker Village, which is roughly about a 45-minute drive from here.
How was it affected?
Well, what ended up happening at the Battle of Perryville, you got to keep in mind, you actually could see it if you look for it at Shaker Village. They actually have one of the old iron markers that tells you how many miles it's to Harrisburg and how many miles it is to Lexington. The road, the main road to Lexington from Harrisburg, went right through Shaker Village. And as the Confederates were retreating back to Lexington, they went through Shaker Village. And the Shakers, of course, they're a utopian society, and they're pacifists. So they'll feed anybody. whether you're Union or Confederate. And as the Confederates were coming through, according to Shakers, they baked bread for the Confederate soldiers retreating. They said there were, as one Shaker put it, they were like a bunch of ravenous wolves at our windows. They gave them water, what water they had. They gave them any food that they had. You got to keep in mind, folks, they didn't go to the local Walmart to get what they needed. They saved everything up for the winter from this fall harvest. So when they fed them all to the Confederates, they had nothing to eat themselves through the winter. And there were Confederates that stayed there that were wounded. And if you go to the Trustee Cemetery, there is a Confederate soldier buried in the Trustee Cemetery. He died of disease while he was in Shaker Village. So it was very much affected by it. It also divided the community itself because some of the younger ones decided they got the hot blood in them, and some decided to join the Confederacy or the Union. And that divided the community. And one thing you got to know about the Shakers is that they did not have sexual relations. So they couldn't have children. So what they do, they invited children that were orphaned. Okay? Well, you got to keep in mind the Civil War, how I try to explain it, 10% of the United States population was wiped out. 1 out of every 10 people were affected from the Civil War that died. For the South, it's even worse. It's 1 out of every 3 in the family lost somebody to the Civil War, or they knew somebody that was lost to the Civil War. And because of that, you had all these children that were orphaned, had no parents. And you got to keep in mind back there, and there weren't that many options for women. You could either be a seamstress, or you could be a laundress, or a maid in the house, but that doesn't leave an option. So you either got married again, and if you couldn't, then you gave your children up for adoption in the orphanage. So the Shakers would take in all these children, and they were doing really well. The last one died out, unfortunately, in 1932, and it's because they had no children. There were no more children to adopt. The orphanages were running dry. Because of the Civil War, by then the children had grown up and moved away. Now, the field that you see in front of us, this is what we call the field of death. And this is where Confederate General Daniel Donaldson, at the front end of the battlefield, came across here, and he came into this open field. And on the next ridge over, you can barely see it from here, the high ridge there. That's where the Union right is. That's where Lytle's brigade and Harris's brigade were. You had Loomis's battery from Coldwater, Michigan. You also had Simonson's battery from Indiana. You had Parsons' battery over here, which we'll cover in a little bit. And what ended up happening is they saw Donaldson in this field. And like I said, they opened up on him. And within 45 minutes, he loses 33% of his entire brigade. He kind of meanders off in the woods here. Well, this field is haunted. I'll tell you one story. We had this is during COVID, okay? And the battlefield was open. You could walk all you wanted. We had 17 miles of trails out here with 57 interpretive markers, and we own 1,200 acres. We own 90% of the original battlefield. So people could come out here, but the museum was closed for 3 months during COVID. But I was still in there running the place. And I run our Facebook page, Perryville Battlefield page. And I had a lady write me, and she said she parked right across from the museum, and she said her children had to use the bathroom downstairs, and she waited for them, and then all of a sudden, she saw a regimental band playing in the field here. And she wrote me on Facebook that day and said, "That was so nice of you to have a regimental band playing for us." She said, I said, "Ma'am, it was just me out on the field." She said, "No, you're kidding." I'm like, "No, man." She said, "Yes, there was a regimental band playing in the field over here." So, and I'll tell you another story. We have military staff rides out here. You can actually go on Google Books and download it. It's called the Military Staff Handbook Ride for the Battle of Perryville. And they'll come out here, and what they do, they learn leadership skills. They learn what went right for the officers here and what went bad for the officers here. And they try to work it out because, that's why you're going to college and ROTC programs is to learn leadership skills. And I had the 136 Illinois State Guard with me, and they brought their historian with them. And we were on the top of the ridge, all the way where Harris's brigade was, and we started hearing a bugle. And it was coming somewhere from the front of this park here. And she said, "Are you hearing that?" Yeah. And it was somebody playing the national anthem on the bugle. She said, "Who's out here playing the bugle?" And I'm like, "Your guess is as good as mine." So yeah, we heard the bugle calls. And then we had some reenactors camped down here. And one of the guys, he didn't believe in ghosts. He said, "Bunch of malarkey." So he was down there, and then all of a sudden it was faint. We all heard it. It was a bugle call. And he turned to me, he said, "Y'all sell bugles in the gift shop, right?"
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's like, "Oh my God." So he heard it. We'll tell some more stories as we get closer to the museum. One other one, this happened during our 2022 reenactment. We had 1,500 reenactors here, along with 20 full-scale cannons. And the guys were camped, the artillery was camped right here. And on the other ridge of those trees that are right in front of us, on the other side there, is where the Confederate camps were. And there was a gentleman that told me a story. He said early in the morning, it was still dark, and he thought he saw his commander. His name was Captain Schuster. And it was cold that morning. Oh my gosh, it was cold. And we were all wearing great coats, which are big long coats with a cape on it. And he thought it was Captain Schuster. And he's walking across here going towards the clump of woods over here. And he yells out at him. He said, Captain Schuster, hold up." The guy wouldn't turn around. Wouldn't even look at him. So he keeps on following him. He goes through the woods there, and on the other side of the Confederates, and they're all kind of surprised seeing him come out of the woods. He said, "Didn't you all just see Captain Schuster come through here?" I'm like, "Dude, you're the only one that came through those woods." So who knows? Then we have a Confederate soldier, and he has been seen multiple times. And what makes him stand out is the way he looks. His beard is greasy and matted. His hair is all sweaty. He's wearing a dirty Confederate uniform, and he's got his rifle in campaign style. And what that means is his rifle is turned down this way, so the tube is facing the ground. That way no dirt or rocks or anything will get in the tube while he's marching on the field. And we had reenactors camped at the front. They saw him walk in, and Bob Clark, one of my friends, was at a fire. They had a fire going there, and they watched him come up, and they're all impressed about how good he looks. Yeah, that's one heck of an impression, dude. And he walks through the fire, and he keeps on walking. And then we had reenactors camped on the other side of the trees here at our Living History camp. John Stick, another good friend of mine, he said that, how should I put it? He had to relieve himself. So he was in the field in the group of woods, and all of a sudden he saw this guy come up behind him, the Confederate soldier, and again he remarks how great he looks. He even had the smell down. And he he looks at him and he says, "Hey, how's it going, dude?" And the guy didn't say anything. And John looked up at him and he faded off into the field. So, yeah. And then we got one other incident where a reenactor was crossing the group of woods from one field into the other field, and he was going through that woods. There was the Confederate soldier standing there, blank staring. And he said, "What's up, man?" And he goes through, and he disappeared right in front of him.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's the stuff that goes on right here. If you have any questions or concerns or watch your back, just follow me.
So it is a lantern tour, so it is pretty dark. Get our K2 going on. Trying to watch. you got, Captain? You had it back there, didn't you? Went all the way to red. I got to keep my flashlight down so I don't shine in people's faces. You got to hit right back there, didn't you? I have to come back there. And you can see the flashlight off out there. It's the moon lit up. We're about up to the gift shop now. Turn that off for a minute. The lamps are doing it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You're probably going to say your guess is as good as mine, but why do you think they disappear at certain times? Like we're all out here, why aren't they showing themselves?
Well, you never know. They might be around here and you just don't know it. And it's just random. I mean, we'll be doing military staff rides out here. And Taylor Bishop, who was with American Battlefield Trust, he was an intern with them. And he was learning, and he interned here for a year. And he went on military staff rides. We would hear cannon fire, rifle fire. He's like, "Are you hearing that?" I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "Is that what I think it is?" I'm like, "Yeah." So yeah, it's just random out here. You just never know what's going to happen. I'll tell you a story. Right where that grove of trees is, right over there, those cedar trees. We have a cannon. A very, very nice gentleman donated a model 1841 smoothbore cannon. We call her Victoria. And it's a reproduction, but it is just like the originals. And we'll fire her on 4th of July. We'll fire her on our commemoration or reenactments. And we got finished for the day about 5 o'clock, and we're sitting under that group of trees there. And then all of a sudden, coming from that direction, we heard cannon fire. And it was so loud and so realistic, my captain said, "Everybody duck," because we thought it was that real. By the way, does anybody know what side I fight for? Union, correct. Anybody know what branch I'm in? Artillery. Right. Why do you say that? Red. Bingo, red trim. If you see yellow, it's cavalry. If you see blue, it's infantry. If you see green, like I said, it's a sergeant. So, and if you see black trim, it is a chaplain. So, this is our museum. Like I said, see the big stones underneath it? That is made from the Yankee House. And our museum is extremely haunted. We'll hear, like I said, complete conversations going on in the museum. There's nobody in there. My staff has gotten so used to it, they just say, oh well. But I'll tell you what happened at one time about the Confederate drummer boy. I mentioned him earlier that died on the battlefield, and he haunts the town. Well, he haunts here too. And we have a kiosk as you first enter the front of the museum. We'll show you a map of the grounds and all that, and that's where the gift shop is. Well, Joe, one of our guys, sitting in the kiosk and turned towards the office where my office is, and he was having a complete conversation with one of the staff members when all of a sudden the door opened and a boy about 13 years old with red hair, with a gray kepi on, gray shirt, gray pants, brogans. He ran right into the museum. And Joe said, hey, wait. You got to pay to go in there. So he chases after him in the museum, and guess what? He's not in there. So I've been in there, and some weird stuff happens. I actually went in the museum one day, and right behind my ear, somebody cleared his voice. There was nobody behind me. And then the Confederate boy, this is funny. He haunts the women's bathroom. Don't ask me why, he does. And you'll hear the most intense crying coming from the women's bathroom. You know how many tourists I've had come upstairs and said there's somebody in the bathrooms crying. Maybe they're missing their parents. So, and I was telling this story, and just like a group of you all, just right now, this lady that was standing in front of me, her eyes got really big. She turned to her friend, and she said, "You're not going to believe this." She said, "I had to use the bathroom before I went on your tour." And she said, "I went into the women's bathroom," and she said, "Right before I entered the women's bathroom, I heard intense crying." She said, "I knocked on the door." She said, "Hello, are you okay?" No response. She opened up the door and looked underneath the stalls. There was nobody in the stalls. I had another lady who said she was using the facilities, and she was in the last stall. If you women have went there earlier, you know what I'm talking about. There's a stall at the very end, and she was doing her business, and then all of a sudden she heard the door open, the faucet turn on with the water, and then heard the door open to the stall next to her. Well, she didn't hear anything, nobody sitting down or anything, so she was kind of curious and kind of looked underneath. She didn't see anybody. So all of a sudden, she looked out her stall door. The water was still running, but nobody ever exited the door. She never heard the door close. So yeah. And then I'll tell you another story about him. This was years ago when we had a reenactment, and the artillery was actually camped right behind the museum. Now, our group, I belong to an artillery unit, and we don't care who comes in our unit. And one of our good friends, Gay Clark, she cooks for an army. Oh my gosh, we had eggs and biscuits and gravy and red-eye gravy, and we had bacon and sausage. Boy, we ate better than them soldiers did, let me tell you what. And she was putting coffee on. And this is like 7 o'clock in the morning, and we got our hay bales in a circle around the campfire, okay? And all of a sudden, I'm here, there's a hay bale here, and there's another bale over here, and my friend Taz was sitting right on that bale. And me and Taz are talking to each other, and all of a sudden, there was a boy, red hair, gray kepi, white shirt, gray pants, and he sits down in the hay bale in between us, but he doesn't say anything. He sits there and stares at the fire.
Totally physical body.
A total physical body, yes. And we didn't think much of it. He just stared at the fire the whole time, and I'm leaning over talking to Taz while he's just staring there. And I'm like, well, he's a teenager. You know how they are in the morning, folks. If you're a parent, you know. So I don't want to be here. So anyway, all of a sudden, Gay says, okay, coffee's on. Breakfast is ready. Get your plates and cups. And we noticed the boy didn't have a cup or plate. So I turned to Taz, and then we looked at the boy and said, hey, come on and join us. Go get yourself a plate and a cup. And I get up, and Taz gets up, and we turn this way, and he's gone, just like that. Yeah. And like I said, he has been seen multiple times around the battlefield.
Are your boots comfortable? They hurt your feet?
Oh, you better believe they hurt my feet, yeah. I've got 2 Dr. Scholl's inside of them right now because they are wood soled, and they have peg nails in them. So, yeah, that's the way they wore them. No Nikes. So, if there's no questions or concerns, let's go this way. By the way, what you're looking in front of you to the right, that is the mass grave. The National Historic Trust made this a historic trust site, and they did a ground penetrating radar about 10 years ago. They found out there's a mass pit in the front and there's a mass pit in the back. And there are 400 Confederate soldiers buried in 2 mass pits in our cemetery.
Do you give a tour of that this evening or no?
What's that?
Do you give a tour of that tonight or no? Is it
We're just
closed?
gonna walk past it.
Okay.
Yeah. We only know 33 names of the 400. The rest of them are unknown to history. Like I said, he was a farmer, owned most of his land. He was a slave owner. Yeah, they were
Trying to stay close enough to get him.
The field of death, they gathered them up here. Now, Mr. Bottoms had 189 Union soldiers buried in his yard. The Russell House on the Hayes Maze Road here, Russell House no longer exists. Unfortunately, it was burned down in a Halloween prank in 1962. Yeah. But there were 89 bodies buried in that yard. The Confederates are all still there. But the Yankees were dug up and they were reinterred.
Are you saying that these burial places back and front?
One's this way, right in front.
Instead of down the side?
Right, they're in the front.
They're not on the sides of the wall.
No, they're in the front. One's in the front and one's in the back. This way. Yeah, they're not sideways. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
I didn't know that. I thought there was one on this side and one on that side.
No, I can show you if you want to go in the museum. If you're here next time, I'll show you actually the blueprints. But yeah, there's one in the front and one in the back. Yep, and that's just a generic soldier. It's not to anybody in particular. It was bought in a catalog. It was put in by the United Daughters of the Confederacy in 1902. And like I said, luckily Mr. Bottoms, as he was burying the bodies with the townsfolk and the slaves, he wrote down any name that he happened to find on the body. Remember, they didn't wear dog tags back then. So he wrote down 33 names, and the 33 names are on the side of the monument.
Where would the names be on there?
Either possibly they had a letter on them, possibly maybe a photograph of them with their name on the back. And that's the only way he could tell. Because, folks, you don't know how they wanted news from home so badly. So they kept these letters and reread them and reread them and reread them. Anything to bring them close to home. Because most of these guys have never even been off their farm before, especially the guys from the South. So, yeah, they even if somebody would get a letter call and the letters would come into camp, everybody would just surround the guy that maybe got a letter that day, and he would read it out to the other guys, unless it was really personal. But, yeah, they would read the news going on in town. They would write their brothers and sisters and say, hey, what's going on right now in town? Because you got to keep in mind these regiments were formed by a prominent member of the community. And all these guys knew each other. They were all friends or their acquaintances. They were the neighbor down the road or down this way. So, yeah, this was a very personal war, believe me. And that's why, like, for example, when these Union soldiers were running, a lot of them would turn to the front as they were running backwards because they didn't want to be shot in the back. Because if you were shot in the back, they thought you were a coward. You were running. And nobody wanted to ride home saying, you know what, John ran today. And then would label him and give him a white feather, saying he was a coward. So, yeah, nobody wanted to be labeled a coward.
They're all huge.
Just to show you how light has affected. See the white over there? That's Springfield. Really? Yep. Yes, it is.
Look over that way at the right.
Look at the lights going out that way. We'll go towards the cannon.
In case you're wondering what that is on the right, that is the Union Monument. And it was passed through Congress in 1929 and finally installed in 1931. And like I said, there are no Yankees that we know of that are on the battlefield. They were all reinterred. But this monument was dedicated to them. And to make a reconciliation between the North and the South, the federal government purposely had that monument made in Georgia. It's made of Georgia marble.
If these fences to our left,
Did you hear it?
are they the original?
No, they're all reproduction. Because, the battle was 100 and some odd years ago. So, those planks are long gone. So, what that is, those are cedar planks, and I don't have a whole lot of money. So, that would have been taller. At the time of the battle, it would have been 6 rails high. Wow. And that's because Mr. Bottoms was a farmer. And that was to keep his cattle and his sheep in.
Did you guys hear those boom boom over there?
Yeah, I heard it.
Yeah, that's why I keep looking around. Yeah, it makes like 4 times.
Not so used to.
I kept saying, "Are you hearing that?" Yeah. They'll definitely pick it up on the microphone. I had to use my red light so it wouldn't shine in everybody's faces too much. It is a lantern tour, so sorry about the darkness, guys.
I'll tell you another story. You just know, you never know when this random stuff is going to happen. It was behind the museum, and years ago, before I was park manager, I was a reenactor. I've been a reenactor for 20 years on artillery. And I gave ghost walks just to all our guys in our unit. And we dressed all authentically. We had period lanterns. And then I would tell them the battle. I've been studying this battle since 1994. And we were walking one day. We got through with the tour. And I'm sitting behind the museum. And I notice a long row of 6-foot mounds of dirt, about 4 foot wide. And we had Boy Scouts with us. And I decided to say, you know what those are? Kids going, what is that? Well, I say, you know what those are? Those are fresh dug graves. And if you misbehave tonight, they're going to pull you down to the grave with them. I had a parent the next day said, I'm going to kill you. My kid
I said, I hope I hear him get up on the hill.
Well, the joke was on us because those mounds of dirt were gone. And not only that,
I wish I would get on be quiet.
Not only were they gone, I later found out through research that's where they had buried temporarily some bodies. Yeah, yikes. The area you see at the very top of the hill where the light is shining, that is Parsons Ridge. That's where those 8 cannons were from Parsons, Captain Charles Parsons' battery. And like I said, he had only 7 of them were able to unlimber from their horses at the time of the battle. And you're standing right now where Confederate General George Manny's 1,900 men came up to this fence. And on the top of that hill also was the 123rd Illinois and the 105th Ohio that I mentioned earlier. And like I said, on the back side of that hill towards the right is where the 41st Georgia and the 1st Tennessee came up that bluff. And then Union General James S. Jackson was killed. And then the 123rd Illinois and the 105th Ohio came running down this hill, came into the cornfield where the 21st Wisconsin Infantry is. And unfortunately, the 21st Wisconsin Infantry loses 59% of their entire regiment in the cornfield right in front of us. And then, as you're going up to the next hill over across the road, that's where Starkweather's Hill is. That pretty much is where the battle ends. On that side of the battlefield, the Union Army slowly falls back. Well, I'll tell you some stories here. This is years ago. And we wanted a night fire cannon. It is so cool to see these cannons fire at night. We had a 12-pound Napoleon with us at the time, and we were set up right over here on the other side of this fence. And I went down to the manager, who was Kurt Holman at the time, and he lived underneath the museum. And I knocked on his door and I said, "Kurt, is it okay if we night fire?" And he's like, "Oh, we'll do what you want." So we decided night fire. Now keep in mind, folks, this is being witnessed by over 100 people. And I noticed out of the corner of my eye, at the very top of the hill, I saw two Union soldiers like this, kind of staring at us with a big white wall tent right behind us. So I turned to my commander, Lieutenant Hauntz. I said, "That might be a drone."
Yeah, it is.
A drone? Military drone. Yep, that's a drone.
Pretty cool.
They knew we were doing a ghost walk tonight. But anyway, yeah, we had a Cessna drone here that flew here about a week ago, going over the battlefield for about a half hour. So anyway, getting back to the story here, um, I noticed at the corner of my eye, I saw those two Union soldiers up there with that white wall tent. And I said, "Lieutenant Hauntz," I said, "we better let them guys know that we're going to be night firing so they won't walk in front of our guns." So we gathered up all the kids in our unit and we said, now go run up that hill and go tell them guys that we're going to be night firing. So we're all standing here looking up the hill, and as they got halfway up that hill, those two Union soldiers in that wall tent, gone, just like that. We all looked at each other and went, okay. So, and I'm not the only one. This is a story that I'll tell you. We had another reenactor, and I told this story to him, and he said, "You're not going to believe this." He said, "Me and my buddy were walking the battlefield, and we decided to go up to Parsons Ridge, and we saw at the top of the hill two Union soldiers, and one Union soldier had his arm on the shoulder of another Union soldier, and they were kind of looking at us as we were coming up. And as soon as we got up midway up that hill, those two Union soldiers were gone, just like that." So, yeah, and then also, if you're an artillerist, you will know this sound. When you're loading a cannon, you put your thumb over the vent hole in the back end of the cannon to prevent any air from getting into the cannon, and then you swab it with water to cool it down, extinguish any hot embers that might be in there from the round that was just fired. You don't want any hot embers in there when you put in the next round, because you may see an artillerist halfway down the field. So, in order to do that, when we put our thumb over the vento, it creates suction. And when you take out the ramrod with the sponge on the end of it, makes a unique sound. It'll go thud, thud. Well, me and some friends were walking around the side of the hill there, and we heard that familiar sound, thud, thud. Like, oh, righty then. So, and these type of things, like I said, they're just random. You just never know when they're going to happen. We hear moans and screams coming from the cornfield. We also, at the top of the hill, a friend of mine who doesn't believe in ghosts at all, he's a photographer. He was going up Starkweather's Hill, and he swears somebody was walking behind him. It got so real, he turned around to make sure there was nobody behind him. And there wasn't. So, so if there's any other questions?
Can we just stand here and not have any noise and see what we hear?
Yeah, that's fine. And just want to finish up. Thank you all so much for coming out to the Perryville Battlefield State Historic Site. I hope you all enjoyed yourselves tonight. And believe me, I won't leave you hanging. I'll lead you back to where the parking lot is. So, all righty. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I keep hearing a hand. The gunfire, like distance. Deer hunters or something. No, they can't do that. There it went again. I've heard it about 100 times.
Now that we're quiet, it got quiet.
And one thing I'll tell you another story about, we have what's called the fog. I actually wrote a book years ago called Haunted Battlefields of the South. It's still in publication. And the first chapter is on Perryville, and it talks about ghost stories here. We have what's called the fog. It only shows up on the actual date of the battle.
There it is.
I heard that one. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a boom. There it goes again.
Can you still do paranormal investigations here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Just go on the website?
Yep.
Okay.
There it goes again.
Yep.
Does that mean, can you actually go up the hill?
Oh, we'll let you roam all 1,200 acres.
All right.
Yeah, it's $250, up to 10 people, and you have the whole battlefield for when it gets dusk all the way until about 5 in the morning.
All right.
So, yeah.
Well, listen to that.
That sounds like a drum beat. That's a drum.
You hear that? That's so cool.
There is 2 or 3 houses over there on Hayes May.
There it goes again.
You got me on that one. It sounds like artillery fire to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Live down north of Cape.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's coming from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like line fire. You got boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll tell you about the fog. The fog only shows up on the anniversary dates, and we'll be sitting in camp, and we would camp, and we can see the fog come in. It'll come in at the front of the park. It'll come through here. All the dogs will start barking like crazy on the whole area, and you'll hear in the fog, you'll hear lanterns, you'll hear canteens clanking, you hear footsteps. You won't see anybody. The fog is so thick you can barely see your hand in front of your face. And it'll end up over at Starkweather's Hill and then fade off. We've also had reenactors, and I've seen it myself too. We'll have clumps of fog. They're about 5 feet high, somewhere around there, maybe about 4 feet wide, and they'll be in clumps, all in a line, and they'll just glide across the battlefield. And this is kind of funny because I wrote my book on the haunted battlefields of the South, and during the reenactment, and it was on the actual date, August 8th of 2022, and they decided, this was a secret, I was sworn to secrecy, the Confederates decided to do a surprise attack on the Union camp. And it happened right down here in the valley where the hill was that I told you about earlier. And they started fighting with each other. And the woman that came in the museum the following week, who went to the reenactment and also read my book, she said, "Did you realize there was a fog?" I'm like, "Oh, I'll be doggone. Yeah, I didn't even think about it. I was too busy running the thing." So there was no fog out here. The only fog that was present is where the troops were skirmishing. And if you go into the museum, come into the museum, we have on the wall the picture of the fog. And it's really cool. It's Confederate cavalry coming through the dried up flowers that were in the fields, and there's fog surrounding them. We call it Confederates in the mist.
Oh,
so,
I have that
but yeah,
picture.
we have several photographs where they're standing in the
picture I
mist, in the
used.
fog. But it was nowhere else on the battlefield. Go figure.
There was a lot of ticks out then too, right?
You got that one right. This is a bad year for ticks. And then to make it overwhelmingly great, we got 3 different types of ticks here now. Yeah, so in the summer, spray yourself good.
But I'm just thinking when they were fighting in the field.
Oh, yeah. Not only that, you got to keep in mind, like I said, the only water they were finding in the creeks and streams here were stagnant pools of water. They were drinking it, so Yeah, they didn't have dechlorination tablets like we do now in the modern army. So they're drinking the stagnant water full of mosquito larvae and everything else. And these guys probably got typhoid fever, scarlet fever, and then all typhoid basically is just bad water.
Whatever happened
Dysentery,
to all
yeah, that was a big killer back in the Civil War. Was dysentery. You basically pooped yourself to death. That's an interesting story. Mr. Bottoms, he tried to sell the hogs, and yeah, nobody wanted to touch them. And he even tried to take them as far as Louisville, and word got that Mr. Bottoms were bringing hogs, and they said, no, no, you take those hogs back. Everybody knew the hogs were eating the dead bodies out here. And the buzzards, yeah, they were eating them too out here. It was, yeah. Even Mr. Bottoms, you got to keep in mind, this is now a battlefield that was his farms. I'll tell you a story about John Russell. The Russell House no longer exists, like I said. It was burned at Halloween prank. And John Russell's son, Hayes, married his daughter. And he was in the 66th Indiana Infantry. And they had a son. His name was Hayes Mays. And they had another son called Mortimer Hayes. And one day, Mortimer Hayes was traveling behind his daddy, and all of a sudden he ran up to his dad, who was running one of the steam tractors, and said, Daddy, what's this? He had his fingers in the sockets of a skull, the eye sockets. He took it up to Dad, and Dad said, where did you find that? He said, Daddy, you just plowed it up. So he went over there, and they saw it was a complete Confederate soldier still with his rifle. And according to family, I have talked to the descendants. Bob Russell was here just last week. He told me that they gave him a proper burial. Now, what that means, the family don't know anymore. They just know they gave him a proper burial. The Russell House, oh my gosh, imagine this, folks. That was used as Alexander McCook's headquarters, but after the battle, it became a field hospital. They amputated so many arms and legs it reached a second-story window. And Asfina Russell, she was the daughter of John Russell. She was 16 years old, and she had the task to bury the body parts. According to family lore, she took 2 wagon loads of body parts and buried them in the backyard. Those body parts are still there, and we know where it is. So yeah, that's another story to tell you just how horrific this affected the folks that lived here. And like I said, every single barn, church, house were turned into field hospitals. Not only here in Perryville, but in Danville, Mackville, Springfield, Bardstown, Louisville, Kentucky, even as far as Jeffersonville, Indiana. Because you got to keep in mind there were only 400 people living in Perryville at the time. We've come up in the world, we have 900 now. Imagine you got an army of 55,000 plus the 16,000 Confederates who were fighting here. They had to take care of all these wounded. There's no way they could handle it all.
Because you know how he was wounded, wasn't killed.
Yeah, we know how many were wounded. The Yankees suffered more than the Confederates. There were about 1,422 Yankees that were wounded, and roughly around 900 Confederates. Now, keep in mind, they didn't know what disease was back then, folks. Disease was a totally foreign concept to these doctors, okay? They didn't wash their hands. They didn't sterilize their instruments. And 60% of all deaths that occurred from the Civil War was from disease alone. Because the surgeons, they didn't sterilize anything. And when that bullet entered the body, keep in mind, it's going through my coat, my vest, my shirt, and it's putting that all into the wound. And if you got hit anywhere between here and here, it was 90% fatal. They just leave you to the side and let you die. Because they didn't know about internal surgery. That was a foreign concept. And then the surgeons, our sutures that we use today are synthetic, and they're meant to dissolve after a certain period of time. Back in the Civil War, they used silk. Well, it's not sterilized either. And what they would do when they think that the wound has healed, they slowly pull that silk suture out. And hopefully it doesn't open. There are incidents that are told about in the Civil War, especially the Civil War nurses. This is the first time women start getting real parts, and they were many times were nurses. And there were stories that they tell where they pulled the string and it wasn't healed yet, and the patient would die within seconds. So yeah, yay!
Mhm.
I wouldn't want to live back then.
No.
If you folks follow me, looks like our boom boom stopped.
I'm going to pause a minute and take a few photos.
Now y'all go home and say you all heard.
Here are the coyotes. Turn my camera facing down so we can see the walk without shining people's faces. It's been a really neat
This is really nice.
landing tour.
He's a very good tour guide.
Mm-hmm.
Very descriptive, and he knows his stuff
Yeah.
inside and out. He knows where to stand at the ridge, you know, what's what. He knows every position that the soldiers were in. So you
Yeah.
get an eye-to-eye feel for it.
And like I said, guys, it is a lantern tour, so most of it's been dark. You hear a bat. You hear it?
Oh, yeah.
It's there around the light.
It's a really good job.
Been having fun, Captain.
I have been.
It's been fun out here in this dark.
Yep.
We are. I want to plan in the spring to come back and do the paranormal tour.
I'd like to do that. You may have to get a bunch of us all together and meet up there.
I'd like for if we can do just 2.
Yeah.
But if not, find somebody else to come with us, help split the cost.
Yeah, split up. We saw some people tonight. I haven't seen them.
There's a look at the cemetery. You can go ahead. About a picnic.
Yeah. Tonight, when we pulled up, we saw a couple of groups that had met up and was having a picnic. It was a beautiful night for it.
Yeah.
And the tour guide, he's going to come back here and go back in that haunted building tonight.
Oh, I'd love to go in there. He's used to it. It's like me when I picked out that first artillery shot way back here. I was like, you guys hear that? Here's where they're adding on.
Oh, huge improvement right
Mm-hmm. We brought our K2 meter, but there's so much. I can see right now, there's so much like electricity poles and people's phones around us. It's hard to get a good accurate reading. Yes, we were off to the side.
Really fine.
People standing behind. Hope he keeps the count. Every man for themselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just kind of getting a look across the field there. Turn this one off. Find my button. That's bright. Get it as low as possible. And look out in the field. A lot of bugs. Yeah. Somebody's house, I'm sure. Ashes, too. Somebody's burning something. See all the ashes in the air? I don't know if I said or not, but each tour consists of 40 people, and They only do it on 2 nights in October, so they did it last Saturday and this Saturday. $10 a person.
That's $10. That's long.
Yeah, I love it. Here's what he was talking about out in this field.
You drive out there.
Yeah, he said you take this road and it goes up to the house. I don't know where the ashes are coming from.
On fire.
This close?
Big old fire.
Mm-hmm.
Fire enough. I didn't hear fire enough.
I gotta turn my light off to show it. Oh yeah.
Going down the hill. It's really fun.
Mm-hmm. Use that one. For some reason my phone won't let it come back on. Oh, I heard the cannon again. You feel the difference in the air through here?
Mm-hmm.
Grass is wet.
Mm-hmm.
Those ashes are still here. What are we in the 40s tonight? Hmm. Cord. Mm-hmm. Across the bridge. Made it back to the pavilion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, lovely.
Thank y'all.
How about, thank you.
Hey
Really
everybody.
hope you all enjoyed it.
Hope you enjoyed it. That was the best $10 we spent in a long time.
It
That was really
was.
fun. And our tour guide, he was great, and he was very informational, and just he seemed like a super nice guy.
You can't wait to come back and do it again.
Yep, and I would recommend anybody out there that wants to know about Civil War history to definitely come to Perryville Battlefield. And if you don't know, he'll let you know because he knows a lot about it.
And you go back in our videos and get the Merchants Row videos that we did and the disembodied voices. And hopefully you all will be able to hear the cannon fire that we were hearing here tonight.
We definitely heard the cannon fire tonight. Yep, out on the ridge.
It was an amazing night. So I'm definitely going to look into that paranormal investigation.
overnight
But
paranormal, yeah.
I think I want to do it in October when the battle actually was.
Yep, early October,
So,
October 8th, around that
I
time.
want to do that next year. I might have to book it ahead of time.
Yep, you're gonna have to book it in the summer to even get it probably.
Until next time,
Let's see what's out there.
there.